Hi, my name is Brian Malone, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the shaker world of percussion. These are instruments that you might encounter in your ensemble. Shakers, also the tambourine here, and wonderful instruments. They can also be potentially the most dangerous instruments in your ensemble if placed in the wrong hands or not used correctly. All of these instruments are very high-pitched, which means they'll cut through an ensemble better than some other percussion instruments sometimes. So I'll talk a little bit about some basic techniques with all of these instruments. So I'll start with the tambourine. Wonderful instrument. I personally love the tambourine. I love the way some of the techniques on this can really lift up a song. This is an instrument I hear oftentimes is given to maybe choir members. If you don't have a regular percussionist, someone will hand this to a choir member and say, hey, play tambourine, and they maybe don't know how to play it, how to hold it. So we'll go over just a couple things here with the tambourine. There's two basic ways you can play the tambourine. You can play single hits, whether you're moving the tambourine to your hand or you're moving your hand to the tambourine. And you can also shake the tambourine in various ways. So, a very versatile instrument. So, as far as striking the tambourine, kind of two different ways you can do that. Another important aspect of the tambourine is how to keep it quiet when you're not playing. We've probably often heard, kind of random jingles happening, in between verses of a song. One way to eliminate that is to hold the tambourine sideways, kind of at a 45-degree angle. That allows the jingles to rest on the body of the tambourine. If the tambourine is vertical like this, things can still kind of rattle around. So whenever I'm not playing, I try to hold the tambourine at this 45-degree angle. From there, there's two different ways you can use the tambourine to play hits or to strike the tambourine. One is to move the tambourine to your hand, so basically holding your hand out. I really like that sound. It gives a nice rich kind of thick sound because as you move the tambourine, the jingles are actually hitting twice. They're hitting when you move the instrument down, and then when it hits your hand, the jingles are moving again. The other way you can play it is to turn the tambourine over, also at a 45-degree angle here, and actually play on the tambourine. That gives it a little more crisp, tight sound. This type of tambourine is what's called a drum set tambourine. So it's plastic, has a mount on it, used for oftentimes playing with a stick. One notable feature is it doesn't have a head. A lot of tambourines will have either a plastic or a calfskin head on it, which you can play on. You can also kind of do the same effect just playing on the edge here. So those are some various ways to strike the tambourine. Another great technique is shaking the tambourine. One of my favorite things to do is maybe on the chorus or refrain of a song is to shake the tambourine back and forth. And then I'll also accent the backbeats, maybe 2 and 4 with my hand. One thing to keep in mind while shaking the tambourine that really helps is to shake basically from your elbow. So when I'm shaking the tambourine, I'm not doing that, I'm doing this. That gives a little bit more, inertia or momentum for the instrument. I also find that easier than moving my wrist. My wrist will get really tired quickly. If you've got a long song or something that's really fast, that kind of elbow motion will help you be able to play a little bit longer too. So if you're shaking the tambourine and then you get to the end of a refrain or chorus and you want to stop, make sure you return the tambourine to that 45-degree angle to keep it nice and quiet when you're not playing. So those are a couple of techniques with the tambourine that might be useful for your ensemble. I also have some shakers here. This might look like dinner or lunchtime. We have these kind of food-themed shakers here. You've probably seen some of these before. A really popular one are the shaker eggs. These are nice. They're nice and high-pitched. And I really like how these will cut through an ensemble. You can have a large choir, one person playing this instrument, and that can really cut through kind of the sonic texture of the ensemble. So with all these instruments, you can just hold them in your fingers. I find that if you hold it closer to the ends of your fingertips, it gives a much more open sound. If you need something a little darker, a little more muted, if you hold it down in the palm of your hand, that's a much different sound. And we also have here this fun little shaker. The company Remo makes this fun little line of shakers called fruit shakes, which are kind of fun, but they also sound really good. This is a little bit darker sound than the egg shaker. And with all of these, I'm kind of using the same technique. Much like the tambourine, I'm moving the instrument from my elbow. It's that kind of motion and not from the wrist. Again, that momentum, that inertia gives you a much more consistent sound. Also, something else to think about is kind of playing on the same plane. You want a nice, consistent, repetitive sound with the shaker. I often tell students to pretend like you're going up to knock on someone's front door. Like you have an imaginary plane right in front of you, and you're trying to strike that repeatedly. So you want a nice, consistent motion. You might also notice that when the shaker moves away from me, that you get a little bit of an accent. You can place that in various ways. Sometimes it sounds good to have it maybe on the beat, 1, 3, 4, 1. Or you can think about it sometimes off the beat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we have the egg shakers here. We have the orange. This is actually kind of a homemade job. I do a lot of education performances, and kids think it's really funny, and adults do, to have a mustard bottle. I actually put some popcorn on the inside of this, and it actually does sound really good. I've used some recording sessions before. So we have a full palette of instruments here. So those are some kind of basic techniques for instruments that shake, the tambourine, the shaker. So hopefully that will be helpful for your ensemble. Oh, and I forgot this last one here. Yeah, this one's just lunch.